Hey guys, it's Busy from the Busy and Audio Show. And Busy and Audio Show. What am I saying? Um, yeah, today I will be going over AQA A level psychology social influence. She's gone over the memory video, so you guys should check that out as well. We're just making this kind of for ourselves, so we can like go through topics that we've covered. So yeah. So let's just get straight into it. Types of conformity. Obviously you got compliance, so public agreement, private disagreement. For example, Busy in public he says he hates house music. In private he loves it when people aren't around. So it's basically, it shows like when people are around or when someone is in public, the effects that it has on their attitudes and beliefs. um that's compliance for you. Then identification is like when someone adopts behavior to fit in with a group or to like be like someone they admire. So for example, and also for this is stronger than, so identification is stronger than compliance. And identification only really stops when the desired person in question, they they stop being desirable, so they become like a bit of a weirdo. So for example, people that are obsessed with celebrities, if we have, I don't know, let's say someone who's obsessed with Central C and want to be like him, talk like him, dress like him, and they agree with everything he agrees with, that's identification. Then internalization is when someone like has a genuine belief change, and this one's the strongest conformity because this is permanent, right? And this would be like, internalization would be something like you shift your whole attitudes and beliefs in public and private, and later we'll see like why it's like that. But yeah, that's the types of conformity. Then explanations for conformity. So there's NSI, which is normative social influence, which is the desire to be liked. So this links back to compliance, because compliance is really the desire to be liked. Like, for example, Busy may say he dislikes house music just for people who he's around that dislike house music to accept him more. So that's NSI. ISI explains internalization. I know I didn't really explain this one that well, but internalization, really and truly, it is just the desire to be right. ISI is more likely in an ambiguous situations, which is true. Like, for example, people that just want to be factually right. So this is not about no one not liking you or something like that. No, it's just about being right. And like the main difference that I bring up in excuse me, in exam questions is that NSI happens with high social pressure but low uncertainty. Oh, excuse my handwriting. And this ISI happens in low social pressure but high uncertainty. I'm gonna try to get through this faster. Now there's some studies that were done. So this is Ash's study. And in Ash's study, there was a group of people, of participants. Actually, no, not even a group. It was a group of Confederates and one or two participants. And what happened was they were shown a picture with three lines, and they said which one's the longest. Now the Confederates would say a stupid answer. They would say the obvious wrong answer. However, because it's a group of them saying it, a lot of the participants would just comply. And it shows the power of majority influence. Participants did conform 36.8% of the time. And then Ash recreated the study, but he changed some of the variables. So the group size, he increased it up, and if the group size is higher, higher group size equals higher rate of conformity. Yeah, the unanimity. I'm pretty sure. I think he increased. I think he increased it, but yeah, no, he decreased it. Oh, I gotta check that one afterwards, you know. But unanimity is basically however many people agree, and the more people that agree, obviously, the more likely people or the participants would be likely to agree with the Confederates. But if it was decreased, then obviously participants would they wouldn't rely on the Confederates so much, and the task difficulty was increased, and it increases ISI. So like I was saying, remember, ISI happens in low social pressure but high uncertainty, and when the task difficulty increases, then there's a higher uncertainty. So participants would just believe the Confederates, and it would be more likely they would believe them. So evaluation would be that it lacks ecological validity because obviously it was in a lab setting. Cultural bias because individualist versus collectivist. This is two different types of societies, and also the study just wasn't done with like a lot of generalizability. Like um the people that was used. That sounds so wrong. The people that was volunteering to be in it, it didn't lead to a lot of generalizability, and it's an artificial task, right? So it lacks mundane realism, right? Then now we have obedience. So obedience is following direct orders from authority, and it's different from conformity because there's no majority pressure. It's like there's one person at the top, and they can influence this many amount of people. I know it's a bit of a wacky diagram, but you get the point, right? Whereas majority influence is like a group of people, so it's this way going that way, right? That's one way I think of it. Then we have some studies. So Milgram studies. It's actually one of my favorite ones. It's kind of interesting to think about. Where there was a Confederate. It was an old man, and the participants would volunteer to play like a little study where they'd be the teacher, he'd be the learner, and the teacher would give questions to the learner. The learner would have to answer the questions truthfully and correctly, and if they didn't, they get shocked. Obviously, the old man then actually gets shocked. There'd be like a scientist as well, like an experimenter, and they'd be ordering to give these shocks, right? And it went up to 450 volts, that's a lot. I'm pretty sure when participants did it to this much, and it didn't actually shock the old man, but the old man would pretend to be getting shocked. 65% obeyed fully. Um, so all the way to 450 volts, and it shows how like strong authority does influence minorities. No, sorry, not minorities, just people in general. There's situational variables Dan Milgram found out. So things like proximity, right? So there's proximity of authority, right? Of authority, and there's proximity of victim. So the closer the victim is, the less obedience there is because you're you're not in the agentic state as much. We'll learn more about that later on, but the closer the authority is, the um the higher the obedience rates are because you feel more pressurized to do something. Location also matters as well because the experiment was carried out at Yale University. It's a really prestigious one, but it was recreated in like a rundown abandoned hospital type of place, and there was less obedience there, probably because of the legitimacy of authority explanation, which we will look at later. Uniform as well. The experimenters were in lab coats, and that led to higher rates of obedience. But when they were wearing casual clothes, there was less rates of obedience. Right, next. Next. How do I go next? There we go. So, evaluations of Milgram is that there was ethical issues. So, first, there was distress, obviously, by the participants pretended to shock the old man. It's like they obviously they'd feel guilty and really shocked, and I'm pretty sure one of the students even like they got so shocked to the point like they started throwing a seizure. um and there was deception as well because he told people that they'd be participating in a memory study, which clearly it wasn't. But some would argue that the deception was needed for this to work out. Uh, However, there was high internal validity, like the participants did really believe in the setup, and there is real life applications for this. I've got some more actually written down in my notes. Um, there's it kind of does lack ecological validity because this experiment isn't something that we'd experience in everyday life, and it lacks population validity because only white men were recruited, so there's not really any generalizability. And but another strength is that because it was a laboratory study, there's good control over extraneous variables. So yeah, I want to go to the next slide. There we go. So now we're covering the agentic state, which is when people see themselves as the agent for authority and it shifts responsibility to the authority figure. So that's why some of the people in Milgram's study went all the way to 450 votes because they didn't believe the responsibility was actually on them, right? Legitimacy of authority. This explanation shows that we look up to authority because they are seen as valid and powerful, and this is based on like schemas and social hierarchy, um, stuff that we've been seeing as we grow up, right? Um, Evaluation of obedience explanations, they are supported by Milgram's variations. So Milgram did do a few variations where he did the study with experimenters that weren't wearing good uniform, and the experiment happened in a rundown hospital. However, obedience does these explanations, they don't explain all behaviors and they ignore personality factors. Like some people don't obey to authority at all. Some people have authoritarian personality. But yeah, we'll look into more of that. Then there's resistance to social influence. So something like having a social support, it reduces conformity and obedience because it feels like you have like people to back you or be there for you and support you. Then we have locus of control. So there's people with higher internal locus of control that believe their life is in their hands, and then there's external locus of control, which is like highly deterministic people that believe that like uh wherever the universe wishes for them, innit? Evaluations of resistance is that, to be fair, it is supported by research. I don't have any case studies, sorry guys, to talk about for this one. I'm trying to think. There's there's the minority influence, but they're not really that, I don't know, because I'm not trying to I'm not trying to memorize every single study. I think the best thing for you to do as an A-level psychology student is really just like go over every study, but go over the ones in detail that you feel like you're really good at. Yeah. Minority influence. So there's three main things in this, which these three is like how minorities can get their influence across. So there's consistency, which is having the same message over time. There's commitment, which is showing dedication to your message, and there's flexibility, which is the willingness to compromise on your message. And these three factors, they all increase minority influence. There's the Moscovici study, which is the blue-green slide experiment. So he presented like these slides, right? They were so obviously blue, but the participants, it was groups of I think 6 or 8 females, and the females amongst them was 2 Confederates, and Confederates would say that no, we don't see blue, we see green, and they kept showing consistency in the experimental group where there was consistency, it showed 8% more compliance compared to the control group. Um, oh, my bad. Evaluations of minority influence. The Moscovici experiment is that it is artificial tasks. To be fair, like the tasks are, it lacks mundane realism. Um, However, it does show real life applications. So applying it to things like civil rights movements or Gandhi. Social change is minority influence leads to social change. Once people like draw attention and they see consistency, and then there's deeper processing, like then society changes its norms to different attitudes and beliefs. There's a snowball effect. So like once few people start accepting a certain belief, oh excuse me, a certain belief or attitude, they will spread that, and over time, like the whole of society will, they'll gradually just accept